All right, I believe we are live. Welcome everyone to another edition of the Profitable Christian Business Podcast. I am so happy to have my guest Kimberly Linert with me today. Kimberly, how are you?
I am great.
Kimberly, I'd love for you to tell the audience a little bit about who you are. We're going to get into a lot of things with you today. We're going to get into your expertise. We're going to get into your story, both your entrepreneurial story as well as your faith story, and ask you some questions around your expertise, but kind of let us know just about who you are.
Yeah, so when I thought about that question, I thought there's so many things that I do, and someone gave me a new term that I didn't know before called polymath. So
Hmm.
I've kind of developed both sides of my brain, my artistic and my scientific, if you will. But I started out as an optometrist, which is an eye
Hmm.
doctor, and I specialized in behavioral optometry, which means I had a therapy center, and I worked with people to either enhance or rehabilitate their vision, the way their brain and their body works together.
Wow.
And that's what I did for many years. And now I've kind of changed into doing more mentoring with people, doing classes about vision, about brain, about expanding your vision and expanding your possibilities. And so it all connects. By doing just the physiological things, you can actually do a lot of things mentally, emotionally, spiritually, opening those things up.
I love I could hear the play on words, vision, there in what you were saying. Like you come from that background, but vision is two things, right? Vision is what you see in reality with your eyes, and vision is also what is lying ahead that you may not yet see, but with faith you proceed. That is really cool. So I love that. I love to ask the guests some just kind of getting to know you fun questions, kind of not make it so all about business. We talk about some heavy stuff sometimes on the show. So let's kind of start off lighthearted, right? So if you could have any superpower for a day, what would it be and why?
I thought about this, and there's so many, but actually, one of them would be to be able to speak any language because I love
Mm,
communicating with people. And so, if I could travel anywhere and have a conversation with anyone, I would
that's
love that.
That's awesome. And that is actually a superpower. You probably can't learn every single language, but that is something that you could actually acquire. It's not like you can go out there and start to fly or like without a plane, but you could actually go out there and learn these languages and do that. So you know what, I feel I regret in my life not having learned at least a second language. I can understand a little bit of Spanish. I took Spanish in high school. And I grew up in Florida, so there was a lot of Spanish spoken there. So I understand Spanish, but I would not say I'm fluent in it, but I love that. So speaking of connecting with people, what's your favorite way to connect with people and make them feel valued?
Well, in person, of course. I like to be, face to face, toes to
Mm,
toes, nose to nose with people because that's when you can, feel them. I mean,
mm,
we have so many senses. We don't just have vision, we have vision, hearing, our feeling, our intuition. And, they say that body language is the highest percentage of communication. So even on this, we can kind of see body language. But
mhm,
when I'm in the same room with you and I can feel your energy, for lack of another word, that seems to be the word people are calling it. But
mhm.
when I can feel you, whatever that sense is, I can connect with you a whole lot better.
Yeah, I feel for the new generation. Like they are stuck. I don't have, well, actually I do have my phone. So they're stuck like this, right? Looking at their phone. And a lot of times it's a text message. It lacks any, like sometimes it can get out of context. I hear so much drama happen over somebody's text that was sent because it lacked the proper context. It lacked the emotion that was behind what they're sending. Even email can be kind of be like that. I like to be really concise in emails and not try and display too much emotion because it can be taken out of context, right? And
Mhm.
whereas if we're together or in even like a setting like this, you definitely get a much stronger connection. So I love that. So here's a fun question. What was your favorite toy as a kid and how has it influenced you today?
So at least 50% of the audience is not going to know this toy because it was a long time ago. But I had this riding toy as a child called a big wheel. It was this
Mm,
big round yellow, low to the ground. vehicle that had these huge red and white wheels, and you would turn it um, in a rotation. And what I liked about it is I can get going really fast, and then I could go and spin out and turn around in a circle and turn around the other way, and I could get going really fast in that. And I think what I like about that is the creativity, the flexibility, the the adventure, the fun of just there was no nothing like when you ride a bike, if you go too fast, you
Mm,
could
hmm.
hit something and fall over or hurt yourself. There was no way to hurt yourself. So it was all bets were off. I could just get going on that thing and just have a great time.
Yeah, I think the younger generation is missing out on a lot of this cool stuff. Like I had a big wheel as well, and it was our first foray into freedom, right? Mom didn't really let you go past the driveway, but we could
That's
go
right.
to the driveway or right to the edge of the street. But then we knew like once we were old enough to have a bike, we could go further. And yeah, it was a lot of freedom. I got in a lot of trouble, a lot of injuries from my riding a bike, but not on the big wheel. So another staple of the Profitable Christian Business um, podcast is the fill in the blank question. So your fill in the blank question: in my journey as a Christian entrepreneur, I've learned that blank.
Well, I think this not just as a Christian entrepreneur, but just in life,
Mm,
that you have to know your values.
mm,
You have to know your values. And, for me, and everyone's values in a different order, but for me, the order is my faith, which is this pleasing to God? Is this
mm,
according to what the Bible says? Second is my personal health. And my third is my family. So when I
mm,
make a decision, is it in alignment with my faith? Is it in
mm,
alignment with health for me, but not only for me, but I expand it out. Is it healthy for other people? Is it healthy for my community? Is it healthy for the planet? Is it healthy for the
mm,
universe? Is it good for all?
mm.
And of course, everyone's family is important to them. Well, at least I think so.
Yeah, values are huge. One of the things that we get into with some of our clients is I call them the 5 Fs. And this is how like I tell them to go about and schedule their day is faith. Schedule your faith. If it's truly your priority, you're going to schedule those things in first, right? You're
Mhm.
going to church, your Bible study, then fitness. Sometimes some people will flip-flop fitness and family, but fitness also meaning health, right? Because you have to be healthy in order to serve your family, even, right? So then family, or you convert. I either way. Then finances. Finally, down to the business part, right? Finances, and then fun, right? Make
Mhm.
sure that you're incorporating all 5 of those into your life, and it'll be much better, right? And scheduling those in that kind of order. All right. So now is when we get into really the heart of the interview, and that is your story. It is totally free form. I don't have any like you have to tell it this way. I want you to tell it how you would tell it, like wherever you want to start from to hopefully to where you are today. But share your faith, share your business journey, all of that in there.
Got it. So, I'll just start from childhood. As a child, I was very reserved and quiet, quite shy. But I loved art, anything artistic very early on. I remember being 5 and my mom had already showed me how to use a needle and sew. I sewed my own clothes for my dolls and, every kind of art or creative thing I could do, craft, artists, whatever. That's what I love doing.
Mm,
And as I got older and I was figuring out what is it I want to do with my life, I was discouraged from being an artist because artists don't make any
mm,
money.
mm-hmm,
And so I started to think, well, what would I like to do? Well, I wanted to help people. And so I chose optometry. And one of the reasons I chose it is one, I wanted to be a doctor, and two, I don't like blood. And optometrists don't see a lot of blood. Also, my optometrist was the most patient optometrist in the world. When I first started wearing contacts, I was allergic to the solutions, and we didn't know that. So I put on soft contacts. I went to school, and I looked like I was drunk because my eyes were red. And so we tried hard lenses that didn't work either. And so I said, that's what I want to do. And so I went into optometry, which is being an eye doctor. And when I got into school, I worked in one rotation called the vision therapy rotation, where we worked with children who are having difficulty in school because their eyes weren't working together as a team.
Mm.
They would get double vision, blurred vision, and they couldn't comprehend what they were reading. And so I started working with my first patient, and I was just going through everything I was taught because I didn't know what I was doing. I was just following the steps. And this little boy I worked with, Darren, he was, oh, wonderful. He was very shy, like I was growing up, and but always very polite. And after working with him a couple months, he came in, he was like bright and he was happy and he was looking up, and I'm like, wow, what's going on here? So I said, Darren, has anything changed since we started working with you? And he said, well, yes. I said, well, what is it? He said, well, I don't feel stupid anymore. I said, what do you mean you don't feel stupid anymore? He said, well, when I used to have to stand up and read in class out loud, everyone would laugh at me because I couldn't read. He said, but now I can read and nobody laughs at me.
Wow.
And that just hit my heart, and I'm like, if I can just do that over and over for the rest of my life, that's what I will do. And so I specialize in what's called behavioral optometry, where we had therapy centers and we actually connect people's vision and brains. And then I added to it, as I got older, I learned that brain was really important and then body integration was very important. So I added that more and more into my therapies. But we created therapies that can help people with not only school problems, but if you've had a head injury. I work with CEOs who want to have better decision making abilities. I work with athletes who wanted to get better. They're already were really good, most of them, but they wanted that edge. So anyone who wanted the edge, and also people who just wanted to get out of glasses, so I would show them
Mm.
how to do that. Um, so I did that for many, many years. And then I had a colleague, he was a neurologist and a chiropractor, and we worked sometimes on some hard cases because I had a lady come in, and when I was looking straight, when I was looking to the
Mm.
other side, and she almost looked like Cookie Monster, her eyes
Oh,
would go
wow.
up and down. She had had 3 surgeries. The, surgeons unfortunately had messed up her eyes, and, they wouldn't touch her anymore, and she's this, 32-year-old beautiful woman, and she's like, "I just want my eyes to look straight." And so I actually worked with him together with her between his brain work and what I was doing with my brain work and vision, and we got her eyes straight. So, but one day I heard, unexpectedly that, he had gotten sick, and 2 months later, he died. Now, this was one of the most brilliant people I've ever met. He was so brilliant that I couldn't understand half the things he was saying, and I was in the same profession. So, it was a wake-up call for me. I said, "I do not wanna die with all this years," and this was, like, maybe, 25 something years or 20 years ahead of experience in me. I said, "I have learned so much, I know so much, I can look at someone and I can assess things just them walking in the room. I don't want this to be lost. How can I disseminate this information so more people besides the people in my local area can get this information?" And someone told me, "Well, you need to write a book and learn to speak." Well, I was shy how to speak. So what I did is I learned from some of the best, Les Brown and some other
Mm.
people would know. I learned from some of the best. And so, that skill helped me be more confident. So now I speak, but I also wrote a book, this book right here,
Oh, nice.
Visualizing Happiness in Every Area of Your Life. And it's a step-by-step guide to um, help you create a life that you love. And it is kind of like a workbook. It has a chapter and then has some things to do. And you need to write it down because by the time you get to the end, you're using all the things you wrote down to put it all together. The other thing I added in there is stories from people and how they found happiness because it's different for every person. So that's what I did. And then about 5 years ago, actually, July was my 5-year anniversary. I
Congrats.
started a podcast, and I have people from all different walks of life on who explain, what makes them happy, but also is to help people find their passion and purpose and live it because we're only happy and find fulfillment when we're living on purpose. And we need to find out what that is. And that can change from season to season. But so I have a variety of guests. So what I tell people is I have vegans and I have carnivores. So you're not going to resonate with everyone, right? But maybe you can resonate with someone that will spark some creativity that will cause you to go, "Oh, I could do that, or that could enhance my life, or I think I'd like to try that. And so, that's kind of where I'm at. And now when I do mentor some people one-on-one, but it's just usually those people who are looking that for that top 1%, that tweak, that thing that's missing. Um, uh, Not that I don't wouldn't be happy to work with everyone, but I'm really good at finding those small little pieces that you need. And of course, working with the person, because only you know who you are, what you want, and what you need. So I'm very good at asking questions. That's why I love doing the podcast. I love asking questions. And so, I'll ask the questions that people need to find the answers within.
There's a lot that I want to touch on there. First off is something real. Like, I wish more books were done like workbooks, right? Because so many people read books and then don't apply them. And they sometimes they tout how many books they've read. Well, but how many of those have you applied, right? But if there was a workbook to go along with the book, or inside the book itself, it's a lot more likely that you're going to apply what's in the book. So congrats to you for doing that. Props to you. To have that in your book. I love how you've taken, like, how your first profession, the optometry, and really the experiences that you had with that, and then brought them into what you do as from a coaching perspective. I think that that's super powerful. Um, I want to dive a little bit deeper into like that missing piece. I might ask, I might have this as a question later, but it's coming to my mind right now. But that missing piece that you kind of referenced, can you kind of give an example of what that might look like maybe from a past client? You don't have to use names or anything like that, but maybe a past client, like what that missing piece that you found was.
So a lot of times the people I'm working with, they've already been successful.
Mm,
Their friends, their colleagues, they look at them and say, "Gosh, you're super successful in this. Look at you have a wonderful family, you have the money, you have the influence." And they're going, "But there's
hmm
something missing." And when they say missing, they mean peace. A lot of times
hmm
that really is the word they're
hmm
looking for. They're looking for that peace that's going to give them peace.
Yeah, nice.
um, and so a lot of times we go really deep into some things. The first thing I will do is just talking about vision. You have your central and your peripheral vision. Your central vision is for focusing and seeing where you're going. Like, there's my goal. You're totally focused on it, totally committed. And there's a difference between want and commit.
hmm
You're totally committed. But if you're just like this and you're so driven in that direction, you don't see all the possibilities because you just think, "Oh, this is the way I'm going to do it, and this is where I'm going."
hmm
We have our peripheral vision. The peripheral vision opens up the field and it allows us to see all the possibilities. But because of our screen society, we're so right here at the center and we don't open up our vision. And you want to open up the vision while keeping your focus, because that's when you can see all the different pathways. I can see, oh, I can go around this way, although there's a mountain right in front of me. And if I was only being central, I'd only see the mountain. I just keep knocking into it, right? I could see, oh, that there's an airplane over here, and there's a train over here, and there's an easy path I could go here. But until you open that up, you can't see all the possibilities. And sometimes when people have been in the same profession or thinking the same way, in the same identity, in the same mindset for years, because it has made them successful, it's working, but it's not all they have to do. It's something else. And it's that feeling inside that there's something else they need to do. And sometimes that's nonprofit.
hmm
Sometimes that's just totally changing professions. I've had people just totally change their professions. I mean, I know part of what I do is also a home business. Why? Because it gives me income so I can do the things I love. So I always have that base income coming in. And, advertisement, if anybody's looking for a home,
Shameless plug.
let me know. Because I love developing leaders and developing people in that. And I do that business a lot different than other people do. I'm not making a list and bothering my friends and
Mm.
family, but I am looking for people who are serious.
Mhm.
Um, but
Committed. Go back to that
yeah,
word.
yeah, we're serious. Yeah. So, but it's a lot of times it's that feeling deep inside that there's something more. And that's what I'm exploring with people. So and sometimes it's that, sometimes it's, there's people that have um their whole career has totally taken over their life. And they realize that they haven't had a very good relationship with their family for many years because they were so driven that they didn't have the family time, and they're looking back and they're feeling um sometimes guilty, and they want to change that. And it doesn't matter when you change. Today is the best day to start something new.
That's right. That's right. It goes back to the adage: the best time to plant a tree is years ago, but the next best time is today, right?
Mhm.
Really, really good. So I actually want to dive deeper in another thing that you said right there, and that was the peripheral versus the straight ahead vision, because I think there's room for debate in there, because what a lot of people suffer from now is the shiny object syndrome. They're looking at too many things in their peripheral, right?
Mm.
And they're not, and they're losing focus. So I think there needs to be a good bit of discernment, and someone like you could help them discern. Okay, that's a good path, right? Or you need to continue to stay focused here, right?
That's exactly right. So, your central vision is for focusing on identifying things. Your peripheral vision is for navigating and for your balance.
Mm,
You need that for balance. But here's the thing, there are people, usually they're called ADHD,
mm,
and they're always peripheral. They're not central, they're always peripheral. And they do get, there's a
mm,
squirrel, there's a squirrel,
mhm.
there's a squirrel. So they're the peripheral people. You want to balance. You want to turn on your central and turn on your peripheral, and your central guides the peripheral, and the peripheral guides the central.
Ooh, tune them in together. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Now we've kind of already dived into your expertise a little bit, but I want to dive in just a little bit more. You often talk about the importance of expanding one's vision, just like you just did. How can business owners cultivate that expanded vision, and how does it impact their confidence when they make critical decisions?
Got it. So when your vision is just restricted, if you think of the world or your decisions or your business as one big jigsaw puzzle, and it's got all these pieces, and that's the whole picture. But if your vision is very restricted and the piece you're looking at is happy and makes you feel good and things are going well in your business, you feel good. And if you move your vision and all of a sudden it's a challenge,
Mm,
it's unhappy, and then you wonder why you're so moody. You wonder why your business is going up and down faster than you want it to go up and
mm,
down. Um, so when you open up your vision, you can see a clear pathway to where you want to go, and you see all the ways to do it. So it gives you choice. It gives you freedom. So, and there's a physical way to open up your eyes, and I've taught that to people in the past that, if you practice it, you will notice new things every day.
mm.
But like you said, you want to keep your focus. Just because you notice something new doesn't mean you need to go in that direction. It's
Mhm.
like a dog that all of a sudden sees a bird,
Yeah.
Every time you see a bird, you're not running to the bird. You're still keeping your focus.
Yes, I think it opens up, like, a lot of what that paints a picture to me is opportunity, because if you're so hyper focused in this middle, you're missing opportunity that lies over here, right? Because because you're not looking, right? Because you're not open to opportunity, because you're like, this is all I'm doing. I don't care. So very, very, yeah. Um, I love all of that.
And the other thing I wanted to say about opportunity is don't be afraid to try something new or go in that direction because you don't know what will happen. I mean, recently in the last couple, not even couple months, just because of my podcast, I have people from all over and I always ask for referrals.
Mm,
Well, someone referred me to someone who's in Las Vegas, and we had a phone call, and he said, "If you're ever in Las Vegas, let me know." Well, guess what? A month and a half ago, I was going to Las Vegas and, "Hey, I'm coming to Las Vegas." And we spent the day and he showed me all around Las Vegas. Not only that, but he connected me to other people. He said, "By the way, I'm having a charity event tonight. You want to come?" It's so funny because when I was packing, God told me, "You need to pack a dress for a charity." I don't know
oh,
why. I wasn't planning to go to a charity, but he told me to pack it. And so I was prepared. And sure enough, I went to this charity and I met these other amazing people. And guess what? He introduced me to something else. And now, today, I am, after this interview, actually, I am interviewing a CEO of Numi, which is a company. So,
nice.
you know, don't be afraid to go and at least test the waters, try something. Someone invites you somewhere, go.
One thing I want to, this is probably everybody else, think it's a small thing of something you just said. And this is where we're going to dive into faith just a little bit. You were obedient to the small thing that God told you to do, right? That God told you to pack a dress. I wonder what would happen if you didn't pack the dress. Would you just not have gone to the charity event, right? Have been there, but not have gone to and then lost the opportunity. God opens up opportunities for us when we even obey him in the small things. So if you're listening, take heart to that and ask, be in communication with God all the time, even if you think it's something small, like what should I wear today? Right.
Mhm.
Because God can open a door for you just on those small things. So the next question is, shifting one's perspective can create a competitive edge. Can you talk about how you facilitate that for people?
Sometimes it's just changing where your position of um, looking is. And I give the example of being in a church, or you can auditorium if you're not a church person, but being in an auditorium, being in a church. So if I'm in church and I'm sitting in the very front row, I have the best view. I can see the person talking. I feel like I'm totally like one with them because I'm hearing the message, everything. If I'm sitting in the audience, I can see the person sitting in the front and the preacher, but I'm not still not seeing everything. But if the next week I decide I'm going to sit in the balcony, I sit in the balcony and I see the person in front. I see the person sitting in the front row. Not only that, but I notice that uh Millicent is talking to her husband, Bert, and that there's a guy laying against the back of the wall. There's like this. I grew up in a church. There's a guy snoring, and his wife is thumping him. And then there's some kids playing up and down the row somewhere else. Well, I see a whole lot more now.
Mhm.
So I always tell people to pull themselves out. And sometimes that's even pulling out into a third person. By third person,
Mm.
I mean you pull out and you come above and you look down at the situation. Or you can think of it as being in a movie theater. You're sitting in the theater, you're looking at the screen at you and whoever or interacting with, or whatever your decision is, you're looking at you making the decisions. Well, all of a sudden you pull the emotions out and just objectively, with no emotion, you're looking at things, and that helps a lot. And there's some different techniques I help people with that can put them in those different situations.
Nice. Yeah. It's to me, it's about being in the weeds, right? So you get so in your business that you don't know as much about your business as you from a high view, right? I totally get that. I feel like yes, there's going to be times where you're putting out fires all over the place, but there are times that you have to actually take the time to step out and just like you're saying, take a much wider view of what's going on, because you're going to, again, miss opportunities, miss not just opportunities, but miss things that are broken, right? Because you're not paying attention that you can fix. So, yeah, really, really nice.
And the other thing I'm thinking of is just even when those things, fires are happening, to have that calm demeanor. And I was what just flashed back in my mind is my son when he was about 7. He was with a babysitter and they went into someone's house to go get something, and they had big dogs, and he got scared and he ran away from the dog and he hit a countertop,
Ooh.
and it split his forehead
Mm,
wide open.
mm.
And I got to the hospital and I'm looking down at my son and I can see his skull bone.
Ow.
And inside, I am freaking out. I'm freaking out. I'm thinking, "Oh my goodness, my son is gonna look like Frankenstein the rest of his life." But, that didn't happen. Actually, they had a plastic surgeon who was marvelous, and they just I don't even know how he did it, but it looks normally as a little scar. But on the outside, I had a smile. I was talking calmly to my son. And I was saying, "It's gonna be okay, you're good," and I was calming him down. And I think sometimes business owners, especially, um, with their, people they're working with, their employees, or even with their customers, when these things happen, you can get emotionally connected. Even if you feeling that strongly inside, it's always that, "It's gonna be okay, we're gonna take care of it, we're gonna handle it." And, at that time, I had to let my son know that everything was fine and he was going to be fine. And, even tried to get him to laugh. And that's what you need to do when you're working with your customers or with the people you work with.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you brought that up, because that's a huge thing in leadership, is that your team, your customer, like, it's even part of your brand. Like, they're going to feed off of whatever the leader is doing. Like, if the leader's like out of control, then everything's going to start being out of control, and people are going to get all up in their emotions. If you're all up in your emotions, they're going to get all up in their emotions, and
Mhm.
things will start to go awry. So that's a great point. One of the other things that I know that you talk about is helping people get in the flow. Can you talk about kind of what that is and what that looks like?
Yeah, and I think this may have been talked about quite a bit,
Hmm.
but I think to get in the flow, you have to be just doing something you love.
Mm.
I mean, that's the bottom line. And that's why I have the podcast to help people get ideas. But you need to find that thing that just lights you up and you're excited. And when you wake up in the morning, you think, "Oh, I get to do that." Like this morning, I was so excited about being on this podcast. I just kept thinking about it. "Oh, I get to be on a podcast with Doug." And the other thing I did is I'm praying because I want to make sure that my words are God's words, that
Mm.
my words, my thoughts, my wisdom, everything I'm giving people is from him, because we all have our own personalities or whatever, but you wanna make sure that what's the point of having a podcast if you're not inspiring someone or helping someone with something? And, so when it comes to flow, just find that thing that lights you up. I mean, it might be, shooting clays. I mean, it might be embroidering. It might be whitewater rafting. When it's in your business, find the things that you really love to do and do them. The things you hate, delegate. Hate, delegate.
That is great advice. Yeah, there was a time in my, like, I'll just talk about my journey just a little bit, when I was not getting lit up. I was a behind the scenes entrepreneur, right? I had client meetings and things like that, but I did not do things like this podcast. I did not have coaching calls like I do have now. Um, and what lights me up is pouring into other people. It sounds like that's a lot of what you like to do too, is pour into other people and help them in like that kind of setting. Um, and not just from what I did, it was like a technical thing. I just provide them something that helped their business technically, whether it's like Facebook ads or something like that. But now I help them from a whole different perspective. And um, yeah, you need to find what lights you up because your business will light up because you're lit up. You're lit up. So very, very good. Thank you for that. I want to dive into some faith questions. We talked about business quite a bit. We interwove a little bit of faith in there, but I want to dive a little bit further into that. So can you talk about how you integrate your faith into your daily decision making?
Oh, it's all day. So, I mean, when I wake up in the morning, um, one of the first things I do is I read my Bible and then I do my prayers. And one of the prayers I say often, almost every day, is, Lord, give me your mind, give me your wisdom, give me your eyes, give me your ears. I even say, give me your smell, give me your feeling, give me your intuition. Um, and then as I go throughout the day, this might sound really funny, but when I go shopping, I take God with me. And tell him, I said, okay, this is kind of the dress I want to find. I'm like, whatever one I'm supposed to buy, I want you to put it in my size at the right
Mm.
price. And then he goes shopping with me. And then I sound
Wow.
crazy, but I'm one of those people that I'm kind of praying all throughout the day. Because God's the only one that can always be with you. I mean, your family's not always with you, you're at work, your friends aren't always with you, but Jesus is always there. So I can
That,
talk to him all day. And I
that's right.
do.
That's a faith exercise to me. Like if you really want to strengthen your faith, like take him with you everywhere you go and have conversations about everything.
Mhm.
Because if you feel reluctant to do that, you should maybe check your faith, right? Because you're not trusting it, you just want to trust him with the big things. It's kind of
Mhm.
like we talked about before. You got to trust him with all the small things too, just like going shopping with you, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that is really, really good. So can you talk about a time in your business where your faith provided clarity or direction in something that was challenging?
Um, Gosh, there's a lot of times. So there's one time where and this is hard for me to share, but
Well,
there was
you,
a miscommunication with me and what we were providing with one of my patients' um, parents. And what had happened is he had gone to another doctor, and the other doctor basically said what we were doing was wrong.
hmm,
And so, I prayed a lot about it because I'm like, these are kind, sweet people who have been given the wrong information. And I thought to myself, I could blow this up and get some publicity for it.
hmm,
Because actually, ethically, it was wrong for that doctor to
hmm,
say that.
hmm,
Or I could do my best to just communicate with the patient. And that's what we ended up doing. But I was very angry
hmm,
at this other doctor who said this. They just had they had a traditional way of treating
hmm,
compared to mine is very creative and different, and we got great results, but not everybody agreed with the way I was doing things. Specifically ophthalmologists. A lot of
hmm,
ophthalmologists didn't agree. And so I had to, I really prayed about that because I did, I was angry. I
hmm,
wasn't angry at the patient. I was angry at the doctor. And I'm like, no, why should I put my patient through that just for publicity?
hmm, right.
And to get back at the
Yeah.
doctor. And I mean, that was one of my first not very positive thoughts, right?
Hmm,
But then I'm like, no, no, that's not going to happen. So, I just came to agreement with them and we, settled it. But um, yeah, sometimes there's really hard decisions because in that case, my emotions did get in there, right? Because I
hmm,
was like, I was. upset because
And
this child actually had been doing very well in their therapy, and of course that ended their therapy.
wow, yes. So many times it's external elements that happen in our business that sometimes, like, you had no control over whether what that doctor said, right? And
Mhm.
we can't control those things, so we have to lean on God to help guide us in the proper way to handle those situations, because the flesh wants to lash out, kind of like you wanted to lash out. There's been plenty of times in my business and my career where I've like, oh, that really makes, and I wanted to do what would have been the wrong thing to do. But that is why when you go with God consistently, daily, kind of like we are talking about, the more He's right there with you, the more that you can make the right decisions at the right time,
Mhm.
because you're in constant communication. So,
Mhm.
wow, I think if anybody gets anything out of this podcast, yes, there's so much value, but just think about that, like being in constant communication with God on a daily basis, big, small, doesn't matter what it is, and you'll find that you'll have peace throughout the day, right? Throughout the week. And it'll just keep going and going. It won't always be roses, right? It won't always be roses, but that's why we have God too, right? So awesome, awesome. Well, thank you, Kimberly, for such a great interview. I do. So I want to know, where do people, like, what do you have? You talked about one thing of the home business thing, and then you, of course, you're coaching and stuff like that. So tell me who should go for what and how they get there.
So I'm mostly on Facebook and LinkedIn, so you can always find me there. I do have a website, and I did want to offer this to people. This book, you
Mm,
can get it on Amazon with this nice yellow shiny cover. Um, but I also want people to have the information. So if you go to my website and click on free book, you can get a PDF of this book. So my website is my name, drkimberlylinert.com, and I'm going to spell it because Kimberly's spelled different. It's DrKimberlyLinert. So drkimberlylinert.com. If you go on there and click on free book, you're going to see that there. And my podcast is there too if you want to listen. Um, but yeah, just connect with me either on LinkedIn or Facebook. And I have people ask me all sorts of things. I just got an email this morning. I was on another podcast and I talked about how I reduced my prescription in half like 25
mm,
years ago, 28 now, 28 years ago. So for people who know the numbers, it's measured in diopters. So minus 3.00, it went to a 150 and a 125. So that's about a half. And they wanted to know how to do that. So whatever questions you have, I am open.
wow, wow, nice, nice. So we'll put those links. So yes, she spelled out for you, but that link will be correct wherever you're watching this or listening to this. It'll be either be in the show notes or in the video description or comments, so that you will. So please go check out her book. Like, she offers it for free, the free PDF on her website. But really support her. Go and buy it. Right. Yes, you get the information, but we're entrepreneurs. Let's support one another. Buy her book. I'm sure it's fabulous. I'll probably check it out as well. I ask one last question, Kimberly, of every entrepreneur before they leave the show, because everyone, before I did this, when I talked to somebody post interview, they'd be like, "Oh, I really wanted to talk about this, or really wanted to pass this bit of wisdom on." So this is, what words of wisdom do you have to pass on to fellow entrepreneurs?
First words that come to me is, "You can do it." And but, the most important thing that, is my purpose here, everybody has a purpose, and my mission is to help every person feel that they're important, they're loved, and
Mm,
what you have to give to the world, whether it be your business or your talents or your love, your connection, whatever it is you have, please share it because it makes the world a better place. And as long as you're living on purpose and living in that flow we talked about, you're going to feel that happiness. You're going to feel that joy. You're going to have that fulfillment, that satisfaction that we all want.
Yeah. So the only thing I want to add to that is if you're feeling like you're missing that piece, Kimberly's your go-to, right? So if you're kind of think you might not be in your purpose, Kimberly will help shine a light on that for you. So reach out to her again. I think there's probably a way through her website, or LinkedIn or Facebook. All those links will be there. But reach out to her. And thank you so much again, Kimberly. And until next time, entrepreneurs, keep moving forward.